to me about the endpoint assessment for the fitter qualification.
No problem at all. Okay, so the endpoint assessment for the fitter is much like all of the other level 3s in that we have 6-month period of gateway in order to complete that endpoint assessment. The elements of that endpoint assessment are a knowledge paper, of which there are 4 sections. One of those sections is health and safety bias. One section is data and calculations. Another one is about materials and material uses. And then the final section is about the skill itself. So it will be about different techniques we use for assembling and fitting products and equipment. So that will be an online multiple choice exam. If a learner fails that exam, then the area or the section that they failed will be the one that they retake, and they won't have to retake the other sections. So it's a little bit different to some of the other level 3 apprentices that might need to take the full knowledge test again. The second part of that assessment will be an interview with a portfolio of evidence. Now, that portfolio evidence typically consists of 3 job reports, and all 3 job reports must be mapped to all of the KSBs. So that again is different to some of the other apprenticeships, where as long as all the KSBs are covered over the 3, then we're okay. With fitter, they need to be individually mapped 3 times over 3 pieces of evidence or 3 reports. Does that make sense so far? Yeah.
It does. What if they haven't done the job that is suitable to be mapped 3 times? Can they have 4 or 5 pieces of evidence?
They can have 4 or 5 pieces of evidence, definitely. But we need to see K1 mapped 3 times, K2 mapped 3 times. So that's what they would like to see. There's a mapping document that you would give your learners, and they will write down on that mapping document next to K1, it will be report 1, page 3, report 2, page 7, report 3, page X, whatever it might be. So as long as they're mapped 3 times, then we're covered. Within the endpoint assessment plan, it says that over the showcase portfolio, those KSBs must be mapped three times. That will then inform the interview, and the interview will be much like the MOE, much like any other level 3. It will be a one-to-one basis, and it will be asking questions on those reports on that showcase. The learner can take that showcase report to the interview with them, and they should take the portfolio with them so that they can reference and talk about that individual job. The final element of the endpoint assessment is the project. Now, the project has two parts, I suppose. We have the part that has to be done at Gateway during that Gateway meeting, which is a mapping form which informs the assessor of the type of project they want to complete. So this will be a form that dictates this is the project that I want to do. It will last 4 weeks, and it consists of these skills, and this knowledge will fall out of it. So they put that project proposal forward at Gateway. Once that is accepted by the endpoint assessment organisation, they can then begin their project in the Gateway period. That Gateway project must last that project must last 4 weeks. Now, that is all elements of that project to last 4 weeks. That includes the project write-up as well. So if they give themselves and they timeline it in a week to write up and gain evidence, and the actual fitting and assembly task takes 2 weeks, and the ordering and the meetings and the preparation takes a week, then that builds our 4 weeks. So it's from start to finish is 4 weeks long, and that's written into the endpoint assessment plan. There's some key things that need to be in that project. It must be the Apprentices project. So they can't be involved in a little bit of it. It needs to be them taking either ordering the spares or being involved in the ordering of the spares, them building the piece of equipment or doing that fitting task, and then either sending it for commissioning or whatever over to the next department. So they need to be in charge of that project itself. It needs to be for a purpose that is outside of their normal working. So what I mean by that is if learner A normally builds cabinets, and they have been for 3 years, their project can't be building a cabinet. The only difference or the only caveat to that is in certain environments, so aerospace being one of them, they are not allowed to sign off their own work until they are verified to do a job a certain amount of times, and they've been observed doing that job a certain amount of times, and then they can gain their stamp or gain their lone working certificate or whatever that might be. Their project could be that final stamp or that final approval. In that case, it can be their normal daily job. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does, yes.
Outside of that, it could be that learner A builds a portion of a piece of plant or a piece of equipment, and their project is to take ownership of the whole unit. So I've had that in the past where somebody puts compressors into plant and equipment, and then their project was building the full air conditioning unit. So they weren't just doing the compressor, but they were doing the evaporator, doing all the pipe work, doing all the silver soldering around the pipe work. They were doing the whole thing rather than just the one little element that they were used to doing in their normal day. So it's got to be for a purpose. So either that approval, or it can be, I've had in the past that the SOP is out of date for a certain task, and in order for that apprentice to write a new SOP, they have to do that fitting task from start to finish, and they need to find out where it went wrong or what was wrong with the SOP and modify the SOP for that. So that's the purpose of doing the fitting task, was to create the SOP or procedure or whatever. Okay. Once they've finished that project, they need to do a project write-up. That should be written in a technical format. So a front cover, a contents page, annexes or appendices, drawings, diagrams, and things like that. It needs to be written down as to the planning, the timeline. This is the planned timeline. This is the actual timeline. So a Gantt chart or Microsoft Planner or whatever, a piece of software that they've used to plan that project. It should have some type of day or week diary in there as well, detailing what they've done at certain points. It needs to include what tools they've used, what fitting activities they did, problems that occurred, and so on. So much like a write-up that they're used to doing, but in a bit more depth, in a bit more of a technical sense. It's really a show-off report, if you like.
Yes, and I think they're quite strict with the word count as well. Is it 2,000
They are
words?
strict, yeah. So they're strict with the word count, that it's 2,000 words. That doesn't include annexes or appendices, so they can be added on top of that. So drawings, meetings, everything else doesn't affect the word count. All of that together then goes to the endpoint assessor, and there will be another interview, which is 45 minutes long, and that will be specifically on the project itself. So if we summarize all of it, there will be a knowledge test that will be an online multiple choice. There will be a showcase portfolio and interview or professional discussion. And then there will be the project and interview or professional discussion. So they are the 3 elements. Any questions on any of that?
Yes. Is there a specific order that they must happen in?
Now, they should happen in the way that the knowledge test happens first, and then the other 2 elements fall behind that. That the 2 interviews happen after that. However, it has been done differently. If somebody fails a knowledge test, for instance, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't do their interview. They could still do their interview on the time that's been put in and on that booking date, and they can do their resit at a later date after that.
And is the online test taken at the college?
It is indeed. So the online test has to be taken in a controlled environment. So that will be taken in Basingstoke College within the exams department. So we will book that through our exams department.
And the technical interview, is that taken at the Apprentices site of work?
It is indeed. So that's taken at the Apprentices site of work. Historically, these can be done face to face or over Teams or another, sort of video streaming software. It's usually Teams.
Fantastic. And is there generally a time span between these? Are they, I don't know, how long would you sort of expect from the start when you kick your project off to really everything's wrapped up?
So because the project has got a very strict 4-week deadline, what we would expect to see is before the gateway period, we have got 3 very good showcase reports that we can submit at the same time as the project proposal. So at that gateway meeting. So the majority of the work is then done and submitted to the endpoint assessor. Then there is a 4-week window to do that project. And once that project has been completed at that 4 weeks, we should be doing the interview process and the multiple choice test shortly after that. So within a month after that. That's what it should be like.
Perfect. And one thing, probably just to jump back to the project, I believe the almost like the apprentice's supervisor submits a witness testimony.
Yes. So within that project, there are knowledge, skills, and behaviours in there. The best way to submit the behaviours side is that witness testimony. The employer has to agree that it's the apprentice's work, that they followed all the correct procedures, that they followed the correct health and safety guidance, that they were safe doing it, they've got all their fingers and toes at the end of it, that kind of thing. And witness testimony is the easiest way of doing that. So,
okay, well, thank you ever so much, Darren. I believe that's answered all my questions. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Excellent.
Yes. Now how do I stop it recording? Stop recording. There we go.